So we were sinking fast. We didn't have a variety, like diversity of marketing, or markets to be into.
Right.
And so we were having, people on our team quit left and right because eventually they were just going broke. They're like, hey, we got to get paid. I wasn't getting paid. I actually went from, being financially independent to being on welfare, literally, get on food stamps and everything else.
Welcome to the Expert in You podcast, the show for professional entrepreneurs, experts, authors, speakers, coaches, and consultants who are ready to elevate their business, expand their influence, and boost their bank accounts. Join us as we dive deep with industry-leading experts who share their top strategies, invaluable insights, practical tips, and personal experiences to help you achieve extraordinary growth and success. Whether you're looking to sharpen your skills, stay ahead of the curve, or find that competitive edge, this podcast is your ultimate resource for unlocking your full potential. So tune in, get inspired, grab your coffee, and let's unlock the expert in you. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Expert in You Showcase. I'm your host, Carden, and I'm really excited for my guest today. He comes with so much experience. I have Chris Miles here with me. He is an anti-financial advisor expert. Did I say that right, Chris?
That works, yeah.
Okay, awesome. He's done a lot of great things. I know this is going to be an awesome conversation. And he comes just with so many years of experience, ups and downs, and I know this is just going to be rich. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to be here, Ann.
Well, I am excited to talk to you because your journey hasn't been easy, just as mine has not been easy in business over the many, many years we've both, I think together, collaboratively, we've probably been in business about 65 or 70 years, Chris.
That makes it sound really old, doesn't it?
It does. It makes us sound really smart, right?
That's right. It's a breadth of experience here.
One of the things I love that you talk about is work being optional. So why don't you just give everyone a little bit of your backstory, what you do, who you serve, and what you actually sell. And then we're going to dive into some real rich conversation.
Yeah, I'll be brief with my backstory because it's interesting because I actually went to college thinking that would be the key to freedom, right? Because, I grew up with my parents being very much in scarcity. Hey, we can't afford this. Money doesn't grow on trees. What do you think I am? Made of money? Those kind of phrases you grow up with. Well, I decided I was going to go to college. But then going to college, I realized, you know what? I don't want to be a slave either. So I decided I want to become a business consultant. But when I was about to get my bachelor's, I said, well, if I'm going to become a business consultant, shouldn't I have real life business experience, not just be some kid with an MBA coming out of college saying, I know how to, consult you on what you're doing wrong in your company. Mm-hmm. So I actually dropped out. It took us a 1-year sabbatical, or supposed to be a 1-year sabbatical. And I decided I was going to find some business to do. And the first business was being a financial advisor, not knowing they take everybody off the street as long as you could pass a test with 70% and not be a criminal. So I did that. And I love being an entrepreneur so much, I never went back to college. So I actually dropped out. I stayed dropped out. And I went down that path. And then 4 years in, I sat down with my dad, the guy that was the penny pinching saver, the one that's he was like the Dave Ramsey, of the world, right? He was doing that very same stuff, pay off all your debts, save everything you can. And when I sat down with him, I had to tell him, I was like, Dad, you're 61 years old, but if you want to retire today, despite being debt free and stuffing your 401k forever, you're going to have to die in about 5 or 6 years because that's when you're going to run out of money. Okay, well, what do I do? I don't know. You did everything right. And that kind of put me on a journey. And eventually I started realizing things like real estate investing and really investing for passive income, cash flow. Income is really what everybody wants, including my dad. And so I started doing that myself. I actually quit being a financial advisor, vowed never to become one again, never teach about money. I'll just be a mortgage broker, teach ballroom dancing on the side. Because side note, I used to be one of the nation's top amateur ballroom dancers.
Oh my gosh, I love that. What a great story.
Yeah. Now I'm a marathoner, right? So I can't shake my hips as well, but I can run. But anyways, I ended up going that path. And then later that next year when I was 28, almost 29 years old, I was able to retire myself. I had enough passive income coming in from my investments that I could quit. And it blew my mind. I didn't think it would be that easy or that simple. And of course, somebody that's 28 years old, doesn't have to work a job anymore, it captures people's attention. Everybody wanted to know how I did it. And so eventually in 2007, I came out of retirement to teach people how to do what I did, only to get my butt kicked by the recession, and including our business got majorly affected to the point where I went from millionaire to upside down millionaire, where I was over $1 million in debt. So I had to dig out of that debt hole, was able to scrape by. We could talk about that too, what I did in business because it's pretty bad. But I was able to get out of, avoid bankruptcy and dig out of that hole to the point where by the end of 2016, I was able to have enough passive income to retire the second time when I was 39. And so that's really what I teach people to do, is how to become work optional, where you work in your business because you want to, not because you have to, right? You have enough passive income that can cover all your family's needs. So really, you just work by choice. You get to be empowered to say, you know what, I'm here because I want to be here, not because I have to pay the bills or have to be here.
Well, we're definitely in a world where that's a possibility now, where before it was more difficult, but because of the internet and we can be global, there's so many different opportunities, from when I started in business 35 or 36 years ago. And I think it's more accessible for really anyone. Do you agree with that?
I really do. I think it's crazy enough, even though the business world is changing all the time, I think it's easier than it's ever been.
I agree.
It's so much easier for somebody starting now than it was. When I started, I was literally calling people, not out of the phone book per se, but I was calling people cold sometimes, like referrals I would get from people like, hey, you want to invest your money with me? No, I just got laid off from Enron because it just failed. So no thanks,
Right.
Things like that, So yeah, I think business is easier. With AI right now, oh my gosh, the days, weeks, years I spent on marketing, and now with AI, I can refine my messaging and stuff within minutes or hours.
Right.
We've just never had anything like this before.
Yeah, I totally agree. My first business went global, but I had to advertise globally to do that. I had to run ads in print magazines that were international to make that happen. And now, for the last 16 years or so, I've been working with people all over the world, and it's just opened so many opportunities. I say, if you can't make it in business in the marketplace today, you never would have been able to make it, I don't think, because it is easier. In some ways, though, it's harder. You do have to rise above noise. I think you have to be a better marketer. I think there are places in business that are more difficult. It's more competitive than it's ever been. And anybody can get into business now. That maybe wasn't as easy before, when you had to open a brick and mortar business, or you had to have a brick and mortar office or whatever that was. So some things have changed. But so it's such a great story. First of all, congratulations on all of your success and everything that you've accomplished, and the ballroom dancing and all the other cool stuff you've done. I love that. So what happened when the recession hit? I went through the recession too. I actually expanded when everybody else was shutting down. So that was a whole nother crazy story. But what happened there, and how did you pull yourself out of that? So I would love to talk about that.
Yeah, the end of 2006 is myself and there were several other partners that kind of got together, want to create a business, essentially teach people how to do like what Robert Kiyosaki talks about in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, how to get out of the rat race, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like my message today. I just call work optional instead of, retirement or whatever. But the problem is that our main target market were all real estate flippers. So they were people that were flipping properties left and right. And by the summer of 2007, the banks weren't really announcing anything, but they were tightening their lending requirements. So also it was harder for these guys to flip their real estate properties. And so what would happen, they would say, hey, you know what? Money's just a little bit tight right now. We're getting delayed. It's, we were, before in like 2006, it was like 2021, if you remember, 2021 real estate, right? It was like, you just put it on the market and minutes later, your property's sold.
Same thing. They'd have 10 or 12 offers, yes.
Exactly. You got competing offers and everything. So it never sat on the market. Well, 2007, because all of a sudden they were slowly tightening their lending requirements, it was getting harder and harder to find a buyer. Plus prices were going up too, in 2006 going into 2007. So these guys couldn't sell it. They couldn't pay us. We had all these new startup costs and everything we're doing. We're putting out this marketing, and we're putting on a radio show. We're on AM Talk Radio and doing that and paying lots of money for that because we didn't have podcasts quite yet, and all this stuff, so it was high overhead. Everything's going on. Plus my lifestyle had creeped up because I was enjoying how much money I had coming in. Mm-hmm. And so it was like that perfect storm, but in a George Clooney way, right? Like where they all die. Sorry, spoiler alert for you if you haven't watched Perfect Storm. But it was like that, and so we were sinking fast. We didn't have a variety, like diversity of marketing, or markets to be into.
Right.
And so we were having, people on our team quit left and right because eventually they were just going broke. They're like, hey, we got to get paid. Mm-hmm. I wasn't getting paid. I actually went from, being financially independent to being on welfare, literally. Get on food stamps and everything else. And it was just a rough couple of years until we were able to finally pull out of it. About 2009, when we started breaking into the chiropractic and dental markets. And actually, I changed what we were coaching because I felt like a fraud trying to teach people how to get out of the rat race when I was back in it. So I stopped doing that. And instead, people would come to me, they're like, Chris, I know the stuff that you know. I would love to pay you, but money's tight right now. The recession's made it really tough on us. I wish I could pay you. I just don't have the cash.
Right.
In the back of my mind, what I was thinking was, I wish I was in your situation right now, because I was over $1 million in debt. I was like in the whole, about $15,000, $16,000 a month that I was short between business and personal expenses versus my income. So I just told him, I wouldn't say verbally, of course, hey, I'm more broke than you, because that's business suicide. So what I did say, is I did say, well, if I could find the cash, would you pay me? I said, well, yeah, of course. I was like, great. And so I'd show him almost artistically, like creatively, the very things I had learned from my own situation, trying to avoid bankruptcy. I was showing them to do the same things, and with their cash flow and things like that, and ways to free up money.
Give us some insight. Give us some insight there. What were you showing it? Because cash flow is a thing for you. It's a thing that I do too, but it is a thing for you. So yeah, what were you showing them?
Yeah. So like, for example, the simple stuff was like tracking your money, because when money was abundant, it's like air. You never count the number of breaths you take until the air is taken away. Money's the same way, right? Like if you have money coming in, you're not really worried about it. But when it's not there, you worry.
Yes.
And so I'd start looking at line item by line item where their money's being spent. Not quite like Dave Ramsey living on rice and beans, or cut out that latte like David Bach teaches. But more just, how do you be a wise steward of your money, right? What's worthwhile or a priority for you versus not? And so I would say, oh, hey, there's things we could do here. We could free up so much money here. Like I had showed one couple, they only spent $2,000 a month. They were only making about $2,000 a month, but they're in the whole $300 a month. But I noticed that $350 a month was going to overdraft charges. I was like, hey, if we just time your bills right, we can free up $350 a month. You'll be positive $50 a month. So we would do that, right? Debt, I found a really creative way to pay off debt. I eventually called it the cash flow index, where we don't worry about the interest rate. We actually focus on what's the best bang for your buck when you pay off a loan. Essentially, what's the best ROI? And so I take the balance of the loan divided by the minimum monthly payment, and I'll get the cash flow index. The lowest number is the one I pay off first.
Right.
Everybody gets so hyper-focused on the interest rate, but that's not what stresses people out. It's the cash flow. It's how much is coming out of your pocket. In fact, just yesterday, I had an old client that came back saying, hey, we're debating about hiring this company to help us with our, essentially destroy our credit and help us negotiate all these credit cards that we've run up. I was like, no, don't you dare. Like I've been in worse situations. I can help you with this without having to pay for these guys. I look at their numbers. They had $3.5 million net worth, but they were sinking each month because they were putting their money in things that I told them not to do. Like they were putting their money in things that were illiquid, like 401ks and things like that weren't producing any cash flow. So by the time I looked at all their debts, it's like, by the way, if you actually pay off these specific debts, and what I'm going to ask you to do is probably look at selling some of this crypto, selling some of this Bitcoin, because you can actually free up about $1,850 a month with 74 grand. That's way better than you would just investing in real estate or anything else. So I would show them things like that. By the way, the debts that they were most stressed about were the best debts to not pay off. Ironically, the student loan and the mortgage, they were freaked out about. I was like, that's the least of your worries. Pay off these other ones instead. So I teach them that with the cash flow index and ways to free up taxes, because entrepreneurs all pretty much overpay on taxes, right? Things just of that nature. I would just, go through and just find that money. And what we found is we find on average about $2,800 a month, or almost about $34,000 a year. And eventually that's where it happens. Like we eventually got to like some of these chiropractic and dental coaches, right? People that were centers of influence. I remember there's one chiropractic coach. We found out he was overpaying $50,000 a year in taxes.
Wow.
Every year. And so he cried. He literally cried on our phone call. I'm not sure out of happiness or out of pain because he had overpaid.
Probably both. Some of both, I'm sure. Yeah.
Either way, he was happy. And then we started getting all the referrals. And so it actually pulled our business, which we were almost on the verge of bankruptcy by 2009, was able to pull us out of that hole. And so that's the big thing I always tell people in business, is that the best way to not just survive or come out of a situation like that, but even to thrive, is just focus on the cause and effect. The effect is money. Money is not the cause, it's the effect.
Right.
Cause is value creation. How do I go about solving problems, serving people, or adding value in such a way that they want to give me money, that money is worth less to them than the service they receive or the product they receive. And when I focus on just what do people want, what are the problems I'm trying to solve here, how can I uniquely solve them in a way that others can't, that's where my business kind of launched from there. And eventually when I started, investing in real estate again and creating passive income, guess what? I started teaching my clients to do the same once I was now living what I preached. And so
I love it.
that was a long story, I know, but I mean, I know there's a lot of lessons in there too for any business owner, no matter where you're at.
Absolutely. So I want to go back just a minute. First of all, brilliant is so brilliant. And here's one thing, we talked about AI a little bit earlier, and I was kind of playing around. I use AI a lot in my business, and I was kind of playing around, and I know so many coaches, and I really believe coaching is becoming a thing of the past because of AI. But what's not becoming a thing of the past is strategic thinking. It's having a depth of knowledge and experience and implementation and all the things that really do come from years of experience. And so I was kind of playing around and being a strategic thinker, being able to see things that other people cannot see, identifying those blind spots, even knowing things that they don't know, just like you showing the chiropractor that he was paying over $50,000 extra in taxes. Those are things that an average person doesn't really know. Like, they're really depending on experts to be able to show them those things, and they have that knowledge and experience. So that's not going to go away. And I believe that people like you and even people like myself are going to rise to the top, because it's not going to be so easy for everyone to be able to be an advisor or to step into this space, helping other people be able to do those things or start businesses. If you've never run a business or started a business, it's very difficult to coach other people or to help other people. But I love that. I love the insight that you had and what you were able to show people. And that obviously really resonates with what I do with people as well. People have so much opportunity often sitting right in front of them, but they don't know about it. They don't see it. They don't know how to uncover it. So who do you mainly work with then, Chris, in your business right now?
Yeah, we mainly work with high income earners. They could be W-2 employees or even business owners as well. Those that they're making great money, but they're saying, you know what? I don't want to be trapped just making good money, because on Facebook or Instagram, their life looks great. They take the vacation, they do that stuff. But while even on those vacations, they still think, you know what? I'm still tied to my job or my business. Like, I don't have the time freedom. I got great money that I'm coming in, but so what? Right?
Yeah.
Just like that
work,
client
right?
of $3.5 million net worth, and he's a dentist making like $400,000 a year, but yet they still felt trapped. His wife was even still working too. She's like, I can't quit.
Yeah.
And I said, I bet you could, but you guys haven't talked to me in several years. Let's redo this plan and get you guys to actually implement on it, because you've got the potential to generate another couple $100,000 a year of passive income in your situation, which would actually get you to the point that you could easily quit your job and he would be on his way out to where he could just practice a couple days a week, which is his desire.
Hi, friend. I have an exciting announcement. I hope you're enjoying this episode of Expert in You podcast, but I have to ask you, have you checked out the latest issue of Expert in You magazine yet? It's jam-packed with rich content, powerful strategies, inspiring stories, and so much more to help you elevate your business and personal growth. Don't miss out. Go grab your digital copy now and join our community of experts making a difference every day. Go to expertinyoumagazine.com and check out your digital copy today. Transform your expertise into success with Expert in You magazine. It's not just a publication, it is a movement. Yeah, I love it. I love it. This is so good. So how do you get your clients, Chris? What do you do to get your clients in your business?
Yeah, paid ads has been an absolute train wreck for us.
I could see I could see that would be a problem. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, now we're starting to do it again. We're doing more retargeting, which is interesting, and that's generating better leads for us.
What kind of ad do you run? I'm just curious. Like, what kind of an ad would Chris run to try to get traction?
We're actually advertising the thing that's worked. We did try all different types of ads, but the one thing that's always worked for us is our podcast. I have my own podcast, the Money Ripples podcast. It's in its 11th year now. So we've had it just over 11 years. Yeah, that's my second podcast too. I started the first one in 2008, but I shut that one down in 2012. But I started this one up in 2014. And I'll tell you, 90% plus of our business either comes from the podcast or from YouTube. And so that's why I'm on shows like this, because the thing is, I always invite people. I was like, I'm not going to sell you anything, but if you like what you hear, follow my podcast too. And a lot of times people will eventually say, if they're my cup of tea. If they're not, then they'll know and they'll just go on their merry way and I'll never have to hear about it. But the nice thing about a podcast is that it nurtures people, right? It's a great way to nurture the people to see if they really do resonate with you. And if they do, then those are people that reach out. And so we never really had to pay much for advertising in that sense because it's been very organic. Obviously, referrals come in as well from those clients. But yeah, between YouTube and podcasts, that's our number one thing. And now when we're trying to retarget instead back to the podcast. Because if they visit our site and abandon it, which by the way, we got this thing called lead detector that actually captures all the abandoned leads and actually captures their information as well as like even like sometimes their financial situation or credit scores and things like that. So even if they abandon the website, we still get their information that we could then still, use in a sense to retarget to them and, on different social media, whether it be Facebook or, YouTube or whatever it might be.
Now, do you have a book out there too, Chris? Have you written a book?
Soon to come. Actually, I avoided writing. I hate writing. Like I will do podcasts all day long. Yeah. Writing is not my thing. But thanks to AI and hiring some writers to help me out a little bit, we actually have a book that's probably going to launch about the fall of 2025 here. Okay. So it's actually, we actually just changed the title to be called Work Optional Blueprint. And really that, what does it take to get somebody to be, financially free where they work because they want to, not because they have to.
Yeah, I love it. So where does Money Ripples come from?
That was actually an idea I got on a jog.
You got that idea on a jog?
Yeah. So like I said, I'm a runner, or whatever. I was out running, and this is when I was still working with my previous company. And I just had this feeling, this impression that I needed to create something else. I was still planning to take over that company, right? But when I was out for a run, I was really thinking like, okay, maybe I should just create another branch to market and help that other company out and just, have more people out there marketing. So I was trying to think about a new website and everything with like, cash flow, passive income was like super expensive. And so I went to what's my vision? Like what is it I really am doing for people? And I thought about like, there's one chiropractic couple that we saved them $6,000 a month. Again, not even with investing, just with freeing up cash flow in their business and their personal life.
Decisions, right.
Yeah. And what ended up happening is that first $6,000 they freed up, they bought a $6,000 four-wheeler. Now, other financial people would shame them for that, but I didn't because I knew why. Because this guy, he never felt like he could take weekends off. He would work sometimes into his Saturdays, and then Sunday he'd be so exhausted he wouldn't have a whole lot of energy or time for the family he loved. But having $6,000 more a month freed up, gave him the permission to take off that weekend and relax. And so that four-wheeler, and this is what his wife said. His wife said, Chris, like we bought that four-wheeler because he's now taking my kids out on that four-wheeler every single weekend. We're having fun. We're enjoying time as a family. My kids got their father back and I got my husband back.
I love it. What a great story. That gives me.
And I thought about that ripple effect, right? Like that creates in their lives, not mentioned generationally, because it creates a different, legacy for his kids. But also what does that do when you stop worrying about yourself and you have enough cash flow coming in that you can start looking around you to see whose lives you can bless. That blesses the community, the country, and ultimately across the world. And that's when it hit me, Money Ripples. And so I
love it.
Ran right home, bought the website for like $8 on GoDaddy, and the rest is history.
Yeah. So good. One of the things that I see, and I know you probably see this too, is I see such a scarcity mindset or a mindset of complacency. Okay, I'm doing okay. Yeah. So I'm not going to strive for anything more. I don't want to do anything more. And there's a fine line there, in my opinion. If, for example, if you're going to have a business, make as much as you can without sacrificing the rest of your life, like everything else around you, but make as much as you can, because the impact comes from the amount of money that you make. Like to be able to give and not have to think about it, or to be able to help somebody out and not have to think about it because it's going to all of a sudden, now I don't eat, right? It's a very different place to be in your life. And I know years ago when I sold a lot of my businesses and it put us in a very different place financially, there was such a freedom there, such a freedom. Like what I do now, I do because I absolutely love it. It's a passion. Yeah. It's fun. I don't have to do this. I want to do it. And it's such a different place to be.
That's right. That's one of the things I tell people is like a nice side benefit as a business owner. When you have more than enough passive income coming in that you don't have to keep working your business, you just do it out of choice. Like my team knows, they sometimes get scared because they know that, if I just dropped everything, just shut down Money Ripples, I can live on my $50,000 a month passive income, But I don't, because I believe that it's kind of like where much is given, much is required, right? Or Spider-Man,
I agree.
With great responsibility comes, whatever. Great power comes great responsibility, And so,
I also don't think we're called to be lazy or not do anything either. And and you've got all this brilliance, right?
Yeah. I believe God gives us that for a reason. Like,
right.
we're here to bless people, and
That's right.
and I could sit on a beach and just be happy with my family, but who else does that really help? Nobody.
Right.
Like, how am I going to leave a better footprint on this planet to bless more lives? And I think all of us can create that ripple effect through people's lives if we stop worrying about just being comfortable and instead figure out, how can I free myself? And by the way, when you're financially free, and you probably know this, Anne, when you don't need the money from business, that's when everybody wants to do business with you. They'll want to hire you because they know you're not money motivated.
You don't have commission breath, right? Isn't that what they say? Commission breath.
Yes, exactly. I call it business breath, but the same thing. Exactly.
And like, I get to pick my clients. I pick my clients. I don't have to take clients I don't want to work with or people that aren't a good fit. I get to pick and choose. And yeah, it's a very different place to be.
It is. It's fun. It's really a fun place because you get to choose to do what you love. And it doesn't mean that I love everything about my business every day, right? Because to do what you love, that also means you got to do the sometimes you got to take out the garbage too, right? You got to do the dirty work as well. But still, I mean, I think living a life with purpose and with meaning and again, using those talents and gifts to bless others. I think that's what we're here to do on this planet.
Oh, you and I are so in alignment with that, but I can tell too that our values and just our faith is also a big piece of that. And I don't believe that we are really called to retire. I see so many people, Chris, I come across so many people on LinkedIn that are older, and it's almost to the point where I don't even want to talk. This sounds so bad, and I don't want this to sound bad, but where I almost don't even want to talk to people that are like around retirement age, because all they're thinking about is, well, I'm on my way out, I'm retiring, or I don't want to do much in my business anymore. And it's great if financially they are in a place to do that. But I just always sit back and think, is that really what we're called to do? Like, is that, I don't think we have to keep working ourselves, to the bone like we did when we first started or whatever. But it's just kind of a mindset to me. Like, what are you leaving out with that thinking or that way of doing things? I don't know. I just think about it differently, I think, than most people. I have people that say, when are you going to retire? I'm like, why? Why would I retire? I'm doing something I love, and I still get to help people, and it's the perfect life.
I completely agree. Yeah.
So good. All right. So what you've done so much, we clearly see your heart and we clearly see your brilliance. What are some goals for you, Chris? where do you go from here?
Some people will say like, hey, Chris, do you want to be like the guy that stands toe to toe with Dave Ramsey and come from a more abundant place versus the scarcity place and help people out? And
by the way, I have to cut you off there. Did you post something about Dave Ramsey yesterday?
It wasn't yesterday, but
a couple days ago.
It was actually from 2 years ago. It was funny because
really, it came.
But somebody found it. And you know how the algorithms work? When they comment on it and then it shows back up in everybody's feed.
I just saw it. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off, but when you mentioned him, I'm like, I think that was Chris that posted that. So go ahead.
Yeah. Every once in a while I do, but oh boy, I mean, you can get some people fired up because again,
I saw that.
I believe he is blessing lives, but he gets people to zero, right? He gets them good with budgeting and paying off their debt, even though I might do a different strategy than him. Still, he's blessed millions of lives.
Yeah.
But don't listen to him after that, right? And so people are like, well, should you go toe to toe with him? And I've realized more and more, I really don't care to. I don't care to have hit the masses. Like, I don't care to hit tens of millions or hundreds of millions of people. I just want to hit the right ones, And like my goal in 2030 is to have at least 1,000 of our clients financially independent, where they are work optional, right?
That's amazing.
That's our goal, is get 1,000 family financially independent, because that's where a ripple effect really starts, and get in that place. We got a lot of people, hundreds, that are already on their way there. I'm just trying to get more people to be there by 2030.
What do you need to be able to do that? What challenges do you hit trying to reach that goal or to really achieve the things you want?
Well, the biggest challenge is the scaling aspect, right? I mean, that's ultimately what it is, because really even to get to 1,000, most people take about 5 to 10 years to become financially independent with our program, with our system. Now, that being said, I mean, some people do it within a year, just like that.
Right.
It's piece of cake. But for the most part, it's usually 5 to 10 years. Some people might take more. So what it means is I might have to bring in like easily 10 to 20,000 new clients between now and really in the next few years. And that's a massive undertaking. There's a lot of scaling I've had to address, to make sure that we're ripe and prepared for that kind of influx. So then when we do, even if we do go to paid ads and do things like that, it makes it better. But I know dialing our marketing and our messaging has been big. That's what we focused on this last quarter. But now it's really a matter of, okay, how do we just reach more people and give people more hope to realize that? And I'll tell you, the biggest challenge as well, not to go long-winded, the biggest challenge I'm realizing now is that there's a massive mistrust in the community right now, because I think of what we mentioned at the beginning, because business is easier, because of things like AI, because of the internet and everything else, and influencers and social media and everything else.
Right.
It is so hard to find people that actually are the real deal.
Oh, I agree with you.
So our number one competition isn't really our competition. Our number one competition is actually people that are saying, oh, here's another person talking about financial freedom. Here's another person talking about passive income, which is never passive.
It's never passive, FYI, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you have to start a new Amazon store. Well, that's not passive. Well, I'm going to just do wholesaling in real estate, not passive, right? So when we have actual real passive income, it's the real deal. You have to break through all these like filters and objections and things like that. And so I think right now it is tougher than ever for marketing to stand apart. To be legit, it's much harder because you got to show people that you are the real deal, right?
Right.
And I think the number one way to do that is through social proof. And allowing not just me to carrying all the marketing and all the messaging, but also allow your clients to do that for you as well, to let them be the star. I actually, my website right now has my picture. I want that off. Like I want it off. I don't want to be about me. I want to be about the movement and whose lives we're creating and changing, And so that's really, I think, what will probably have to shift in the marketplace is that I think the number one problem that people have is deal with people's mistrust and objections and showing people that you not only are valuable, but that you actually deliver, you practice what you preach and that you deliver it for people.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that makes it so much easier are the tools that we have right now. Like we're on this podcast and just the conversation, the back and forth conversation, you can tell people that are the real deal. You can tell that they've lived it. You can tell that they've done it. So listening to conversations like this, I think really opens that up. I think that's why podcasting has really taken off as well, is because it really does give people like you and like me a chance to share what we really do know and how we really can help people. So it's given us some great tools, but we have to be out there on video as well, so people can look into our eyes, so people can see that we are real and we know what we're talking about. And I think some of the scariest things I'm seeing with AI is, now this podcasting with AI and even the videos. I'm to the point, I don't even want to watch a video that's created by AI anymore. I'm so over it. I'm so tired of it. It's like, we need authentic. And I don't like that word because I think it's so overused, but it's really true. We need authentic. We need to be able to really see someone and see what they're all about. So we have tools for that.
I think that's why we need to touch on a more heart-to-heart level, because that's the one thing AI hasn't figured out. I mean, AI can be powerful with the language that it uses. But there's a difference when you could tell, like, there's that authenticity, like you said. I heard you use the word too, but it's true. Like, I think that's the next movement, is that it's not just the AI world. It's how do you actually be legit, like where people know that you are who you are. You're real. You have emotions. You have fears, doubts, worries, just like everybody else. However, you're on the hero's journey with them. And I think that's important.
Absolutely. This has been so good. I know we even went longer than we had planned because it's so good. So Chris, first of all, I do want to ask you before we wrap it up, because I know this is probably going through people's heads. So when somebody decides to work with you, like how do you work with people? What's that process or that container that you work with them in? I would love to know more about that.
Yeah, we all have a 5-phase process when we work with people one-on-one, right? There's a few people in my space that try to do something similar, but they're usually like big mastermind groups, and they just say, here's our network, have fun, but there's no real guidance. Guide people.
Those are going away too, I believe they're going to.
I do too. For example, when I look to hire coaches, and hire for stuff, I want people one-on-one. I will pay the premium price to get the expert, right?
Yes. High-level clients will do that. They don't want to be in groups and masterminds and things like that.
I know. No, and nothing wrong with those. I mean, again, we have a community aspect too, but that's not the main thing we're selling. That's just an add-on, right? That's a value add with our community. But no, our whole focus is one-on-one coaching and taking through that 5-phase process where we are like looking for that low-hanging fruit. We're like, where's the cash flow we can free up for people? Creating that foundation. Where's the passive income goals? Where's your A so we can get you to Z or Z if you're up north, right? How do we get you from A to Z? How do we then help you find those deals because we're really strategists and connectors. So like connecting with those deals, then come back to us because we're not paid by those people. We're paid by you as the client. Come back to us and then you can bounce ideas off of. We're like a sounding board to say, hey, here's the investments I'm considering. Here's some concerns. What do you think? You can kind of bounce that off of us and then finally commit, take action, create passive income while protecting your assets so that no one event takes it away, and keep doing, instead of worrying about compounding interest like all the financial advisors talk about, we compound income, compounding passive income so that it multiplies and those investments keep going and growing. Your passive income then has this exponential curve, this hockey stick curve that keeps continuing forever. And that's the real focus, is just helping people keep growing, keep going towards their goals of not just financial independence, but even financial freedom, to the point where now they have the ability to create a bigger ripple effect in people's lives.
I love that. So we're going to put all of your information in the show notes. Anything in particular you want to pitch right here and share with people?
That's what I mentioned earlier. I mean, Money Ripples. I mean, you can look up our podcast. You can find us Money Ripples on social media or moneyripples.com.
Awesome. Well, we will put all of that in the show notes. Chris, this has been such a great conversation. I feel like we could talk for a long time. There's so much we could dive into. I may have to have you back for another show. So we have
I would love to
do that. Yeah, this has been great. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. I want to thank you so much for being here for another episode. And make sure you like and subscribe to the show and share it with other people. That's so important that we get great conversations like this with experts out there to really make an impact in the world. So thank you again for being here. God bless you. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye. The content of this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. Although I share strategies, ideas, and success stories based on real experiences, results are never guaranteed. Every business is unique, and outcomes depend on individual effort, market conditions, and many other factors. By listening, you agree that I and my guests are not responsible for your results or actions based on the content shared. Thank you for tuning in today. If you're as excited as I am about scaling up your influence, business, and bank account, then I have just the thing for you. But first, make sure you subscribe to the show. Second, make sure you share it with someone you care about, because sharing is caring. And third, head on over to join me in my next free virtual exclusive workshop, where we'll explore proven strategies to boost your business and maximize your potential. Look, it doesn't matter if you're just starting out or if you're looking to take your business to the next level, my workshops are designed for you. So head on over to expertinyouworkshop.com to reserve your spot and get ready to transform your expertise into extraordinary success. I'm looking forward to seeing you there and helping you achieve incredible growth. Until next time, make sure you're always seeking the expert in you, and God bless. Have an amazing day.